In the vast expanse of space, where the stars twinkle with indifference to the plights of those who navigate their cold, relentless distances, the United Earth Forces warship Benevolence cruised at a leisurely pace. Its destination was the outer colonies, the fringe worlds where humanity's grip was as tenuous as the fragile peace that governed the interstellar territories. The Benevolence was a paradox, a relic from an era of optimism clumsily retrofitted with the brutal necessities of war. Its hull, once sleek and designed to represent the best of human engineering and diplomacy, now bristled awkwardly with weapons. Cannons, missile pods, and the latest in defensive tech were grafted onto its frame, giving it the appearance of a pacifist wearing a battlesuit several sizes too large. Commander Sarah Chen gazed out of the viewport in her quarters, her reflection superimposed over the inky blackness of space. Her face, marked by lines of stress and sleepless nights, told stories of battles won and too many lost. The Benevolence was under her command, and with it the responsibility of navigating not just the void of space, but the political tightrope that came with it. Her comlink beeped, a gentle reminder that the universe wouldn't pause for her reverie. She tapped the device, accepting the incoming call. "Commander, you're going to want to see this!" Lieutenant Harrow's voice crackled through the speaker. His tone was unusually tense, a stark contrast to his usual calm demeanor. "On my way," Sarah replied, her voice a mixture of curiosity and command. She left her quarters swiftly, her steps echoing through the corridors filled with the hum of the ship's engines and the distant clatter of the crew at work. Arriving at the command center, Sarah was met with a scene of controlled chaos. Officers and analysts were huddled over screens displaying an array of data, from navigational charts to deep space scans. Lieutenant Harrow gestured towards the main holotable, which displayed a large, anomalous object directly in their path. "What are we looking at?" Sarah asked, leaning over the table. "It appeared out of nowhere, Commander. It's not just any ship. It's old, pre-expansion era. We thought it was derelict, but it's powered up and moving towards us," Harrow explained, adjusting the image to show the angular metallic structure of the approaching vessel. "Any signs of life?" Sarah inquired, her mind racing through protocols for first contact and potential threats. "Sensors are picking up faint life signs, but the readings are erratic. It's as if whatever is on board is barely alive, or not alive in the way we understand," Harrow added, his brow furrowed in concern. Sarah considered her options. The outer colonies were on the edge of a breakdown, and any delay could exacerbate the already tense situation. However, the appearance of this mysterious ship could not be ignored. It posed a potential security threat, or an opportunity depending on what secrets it held within its ancient hull. "Set a parallel course, launch drones for a closer inspection, and keep our weapons hot. I don't want any surprises," Sarah ordered, her voice firm, leaving no room for doubt. As the drones dispatched from the Benevolence and approached the ancient warship, the crew watched anxiously. The screens flickered with the first images of the derelict's exterior, scorch marks from ancient battles, hull breaches patched with materials that hadn't been used in centuries, and the faded insignia of a forgotten faction. Suddenly, a transmission cut through the static, a voice so old and distorted it seemed to come from another time. "Help us," it pleaded, a simple message looping over and over. The voice was synthetic, possibly an AI, Sarah thought, her mind a whirlwind of possibilities and dangers. "We need to board it," Sarah decided, her decision final. "Prepare a team. I'm going in." As the preparations began, the Benevolence adjusted its course to shadow the ghostly emissary from a bygone era, its crew unaware that they were about to step into a story that spanned the forgotten chapters of human history. The warship, as awkward and ungainly as it appeared, was about to prove its worth in a universe that valued survival over aesthetics. The journey into the unknown had just begun. As the docking clamps engaged with a metallic thud, Commander Sarah Chen and her selected team suited up for the breach. The airlock between the Benevolence and the ancient vessel hissed as the pressure equalized, a sound eerily like whispers slipping through the cracks of the universe. The door slid open with a reluctant groan, revealing the shadowed innards of a ship that had drifted through the void longer than any of them had been alive. Inside, the corridor stretched ahead, lined with conduits and cables that pulsed with a faint phosphorescent glow, casting eerie lights on the walls. The architecture was a bizarre fusion of functionality and form, with smooth curves disrupted by harsh angular intrusions, a testament to a design philosophy long extinct. "Keep your eyes peeled and comms open," Sarah instructed as they moved forward, their boots thudding softly against the cold metal floor. Every step echoed ominously, mingling with the soft hum of still-active machinery. It was like walking through a museum that could come alive at any moment. The team's tech specialist, Corporal Jensen, held up a scanner, frowning at the readings. "There's a power source still operational deeper within. It's unlike anything I've seen. Doesn't match any known tech signatures." Their path led them to what appeared to be the control center, a room dominated by a vast, semicircular console covered in dust and strange symbols that flickered dimly under touch. As Sarah approached, the air around her buzzed with static, and the screens lit up, startling everyone. Images flashed across them, star maps of forgotten sectors, logs in a cryptic language, and most disturbingly, a visual record of the ship's last encounter. The footage showed a battle, brutal and unyielding, against an unseen foe, ending with the ship limping away, severely damaged. Suddenly, the AI voice that had pleaded for help crackled through their helmet comms. "Welcome, descendants. I am the Sentinel of the Vigilant, tasked with safeguarding this repository." Sarah stepped forward, her voice steady. "We received your distress call. What happened here?" The AI's voice softened, almost melancholic. "I have awaited contact for centuries. My creators, the Aurochs civilization, fell in a war that left no victors, only remnants like me, tasked with preserving their legacy until the arrival of those who could learn from it." "Why call to us now?" Sarah asked, curiosity piqued by the mention of a civilization that had not just vanished, but had actively prepared for its own extinction. "The Vigilant detected the activation of old war relics in your possession. It was programmed to seek out potential successors to the Auroch legacy, those who might wield old powers wisely," the AI explained, casting a virtual gaze towards the armaments awkwardly fixed to the Benevolence. Sarah exchanged a look with her crew, understanding the weight of their accidental inheritance. "What can you teach us, Sentinel? For starters, how to avoid the fate of my creators. Come, let me show you the archives," the AI beckoned, leading them deeper into the ship. As they walked, the walls themselves seemed to whisper secrets of a lost epoch, of technology so advanced, yet so fundamentally bound to the very flaws that led to their creators' demise. With each step, Sarah felt the weight of history settle on her shoulders, a burden she now carried back to a civilization teetering on the brink of its own catastrophic wars. The lessons of the Vigilant would either be a beacon in the dark, or a signal fire leading to further ruin. Only time would tell. The archives of the Vigilant were a vast chamber, where the walls themselves seemed embedded with data storage, shimmering with the encoded wisdom of a lost civilization. As the team entered, panels activated underfoot, illuminating pathways that led deeper into the heart of collected knowledge. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and ancient secrets, the latter almost tangible, as if the very atmosphere was impregnated with the past. Sarah, following the AI Sentinel, observed the panels lighting up with content as they passed. The displays showcased complex engineering schematics, philosophical treatises, and cultural artifacts. It was as if the Aurochs had distilled their entire civilization into this single repository, a library not just of books and data, but of the very essence of their being. "The Aurochs were not unlike you," the Sentinel narrated, its voice echoing softly around the chamber. "They reached for the stars, seeking to seed the galaxy with their kind, but their reach exceeded their grasp, and they found themselves embroiled in conflicts that spanned systems." A particular panel caught Sarah's attention, a detailed analysis of a peace treaty, one that had been brokered too late to prevent the decline of the Aurochs. The terms were sophisticated, aiming for a balance that had been too delicate to maintain. She traced her finger over the cold, illuminated surface, feeling the echoes of hope and desperation. "Why show us this?" she asked, her voice a mix of reverence and dread. "To understand the end, you must first understand the beginning," the sentinel replied, guiding them to another section of the archives. Here, the focus shifted to technology, weapons that could annihilate planets, and defensive systems that could render those same weapons obsolete. Power is nothing without wisdom, and wisdom is nothing without the will to apply it. The Aurochs learned this too late. Corporal Jensen, who had been quiet, spoke up. Can these technologies be replicated, or are they too intertwined with Auroch biology? Some aspects can be adapted. Others are cautionary tales, the sentinel explained, highlighting a diagram of a device that had been used in the last wars. This, for instance, was a last-ditch effort to end a siege, a weapon that turned the tide, but at a grave cost. As they delved deeper, the implications of each piece of technology became clearer. Each had been a double-edged sword, capable of both safeguarding and devastating in equal measure. Sarah pondered the balance they would need to strike to avoid following the same path to destruction. The next section was more personal, containing visual and audio records of the Aurochs' daily life, their celebrations, their art, and their music. It painted a picture of a people not so different from humanity, with aspirations, joys, and sorrows that transcended the boundaries of time and space. Their story is not just a cautionary tale, Sarah mused aloud, absorbed by the displays of cultural richness. It's a mirror. Yes, the sentinel agreed, and like all mirrors, it reflects both warning and wisdom. What you choose to see and to heed will define your path forward. As they prepared to leave, Sarah took one last look around the archives, aware that the knowledge contained within this ship could alter the course of human history. The weight of potential was a heavy mantle to wear as they made their way back to the Benevolence. The data they carried now a beacon of both hope and warning. The echoes of the Aurochs would resonate in the choices humanity would make, in the wars they would fight, and in the peace they hoped to forge. Back aboard the Benevolence, the atmosphere was charged with a mix of awe and apprehension. The crew had been briefed on the preliminary findings from the Vigilant, and the air buzzed with whispered speculations and the soft hum of data being analyzed. Sarah convened a meeting in the strategy room, gathering her senior officers to discuss the implications of the Auroch technology and the ethical quandaries they now faced. Adapting some of this technology could leapfrog our current capabilities by centuries, Lieutenant Commander Griggs pointed out, tapping on his tablet where schematics of an Auroch shield generator flickered. But how do we ensure we don't repeat their mistakes? That's the million-credit question, isn't it? Sarah replied. She paced in front of the holographic displays, each flicker bringing another piece of alien technology to light. The Sentinel warned us about the dual nature of these technologies. We need a framework, a set of principles to guide us. Dr. Lee, the ship's chief scientist, nodded thoughtfully. We could start with controlled experimentation, limited deployment, and a mandatory ethical review before any new system goes online. We'll also need a fail-safe, added Jensen, who had been poring over the data non-stop. Something that ensures these technologies can't be used in the event of a rogue command or compromised system. Sarah agreed. Let's draft a protocol. I want every department involved. This isn't just about warfare. It's about safeguarding our future. As the meeting dispersed, Sarah's thoughts lingered on the broader implications of their discovery. The knowledge they had gleaned from the Vigilant wasn't just a technological boon. It was a historical beacon, shedding light on the pitfalls of a civilization that had soared too high too quickly. Over the next few weeks, the Benevolence transformed into a floating research facility. Teams worked in shifts, decoding Auroch databases, simulating their technologies, and testing prototypes within the safety protocols they had established. The ship itself was a hive of activity, every corridor and lab buzzing with the energy of discovery and the tension of immense responsibility. One evening, as Sarah observed the testing of an Auroch-inspired propulsion system, an urgent message from Earth Command redirected their mission. Tensions at the fringe worlds had escalated. A coalition of outer colonies was threatening to secede, spurred by disputes over resource allocation and political representation. "Commander, they've requested our presence as a show of force," Harrow informed her, handing over the communique. Sarah felt a surge of irony. Here they were, on the brink of possibly preventing future conflicts with newfound knowledge, yet called upon to potentially ignite one due to old disputes. "Prepare the ship. We'll make for the Viridian sector," she ordered, her mind racing. Could the lessons of the Aurochs help them avert a crisis rather than merely enforce a resolution? As the Benevolence charted a course for the troubled region, Sarah utilized the transit time to strategize. She arranged diplomatic talks with the leaders of the coalition, hoping to leverage their new insights into Auroch diplomacy and governance to mediate the conflict. "We're not just enforcers, we're peacemakers," she briefed her crew. "Our goal is to prevent a war, not start one. Let's show them that there's a different way to solve this." Arriving at the Viridian sector, the Benevolence was met with a tense standoff. Coalition ships lined the borders, their commanders wary but willing to talk. Sarah initiated the negotiations with a clear strategy, sharing not just the might of Earth's forces, but the wisdom of a civilization that had learned the hard way about the cost of conflict. The talks were grueling, but Sarah's approach, guided by historical precedents and a genuine offer of technology sharing and economic support, began to turn the tide. Slowly, the coalition leaders started to see a partner in Earth, rather than an adversary. As discussions progressed, Sarah realized that the Benevolence, with all its awkwardly fitted armaments and newly integrated Auroch technology, was indeed becoming the vessel of peace it was meant to be. The echoes of the Aurochs, with their stark lessons and lost hopes, were not just whispers from the past, but guiding voices shaping the future. As the negotiations stretched into days, the crew of the Benevolence watched the developments with bated breath. Sarah had opened up channels of communication that had been long silent, fostering a dialogue built on the prospect of mutual advancement and shared technology, all underpinned by the principles gleaned from the Auroch archives. The conference room aboard the Benevolence buzzed with activity. Holograms of star maps, economic data, and resource distribution models flickered in the semi-darkness, forming the backdrop for intense discussions. Sarah mediated the debates with a steady hand, ensuring each faction felt heard. Her command of the room was underscored by the silent, watchful presence of the Auroch technologies integrated into the ship's systems, a reminder of what could be lost to conflict. The Aurochs reached the stars, but lost their home. Sarah reminded the leaders one evening as tempers flared and the threat of a breakdown loomed large. "They left us their mistakes to learn from, not to repeat. Let's choose a different path." Her words, aided by the translation algorithms developed from the Auroch linguistic databases, resonated across cultural and political divides. The representatives considered the gravity of their decisions, the weight of history palpable in the room. Outside the negotiation chamber, Lieutenant Harrow and Dr. Lee discussed the integration of Auroch technology into Earth's defense network. "We've managed to increase the efficiency of our energy shields by adapting Auroch phase technology, but the real test is ensuring these systems can't be misused," Lee explained, reviewing the latest simulation results. Harrow nodded, his gaze fixed on a display showing a live feed of the coalition ships. "It's about balance, power with accountability. Sarah's banking on these talks, but we're prepared for all outcomes." Meanwhile, in the engineering bay, Jensen and his team labored over the installation of an Auroch-inspired propulsion module. The device, capable of bending space-time more efficiently than any existing human technology, had the potential to change interstellar travel. "Keep it stable," Jensen instructed as they calibrated the intricate array of gravitational lenses. Any fluctuation could be catastrophic. Back in the conference room, breakthroughs followed breakdowns. An agreement on resource sharing was achieved, with protocols and safeguards inspired by the Auroch governance systems. Economic partnerships were forged, emphasizing sustainability and technological exchange. Sarah, seeing the progress, pushed for a final accord, a unified defense protocol that would integrate the coalition into Earth's wider strategic framework. "This isn't just about defense. It's about making sure no one feels the need to stand alone against threats, either from within or from beyond our borders," she proposed. As the final session concluded, a sense of cautious optimism filled the room. The delegates, once adversaries, now discussed plans for a joint summit on neutral ground, where the agreements forged in the shadow of the Benevolence would be ratified. In the quiet that followed the departure of the last delegate, Sarah stood at the viewport, looking out at the stars. The Viridian sector, once a flashpoint for conflict, now held the promise of peace. The Benevolence, a ship built from the follies and fortunes of two civilizations, its once clumsy armaments now seamlessly integrated with alien wisdom, was ready to continue its mission. As the ship prepared to depart, Sarah reflected on the delicate balance they had achieved. It wasn't just about the technology or the power it could wield. It was about the wisdom to use it wisely. The Auroch legacy, with all its brilliance and tragedy, was not a blueprint, but a cautionary tale that had helped steer humanity away from the precipice. Now, as the Benevolence set its course back towards Earth, its mission updated and its purpose renewed, the crew felt the weight of their responsibility not just to their own kind, but to the memory of those who had reached out across time to guide them. The stars ahead were both a map and a reminder, a path illuminated by the light of ancient suns, and the shadows of those who had traversed them before. As the Benevolence made its journey back to Earth, the ship was alive with the hum of activity and the buzz of crew members discussing the recent successful negotiations. Sarah Chen, however, found herself drawn to the solitude of the observation deck, a place where the vastness of space offered a backdrop for reflection. The stars, distant yet comforting, seemed to watch over the Benevolence as it traversed the silent expanse. Sarah thought about the Aurochs, their legacy not just a collection of technologies and warnings, but a beacon that had guided humanity to a new understanding of power and responsibility. In her quarters, a message awaited her from Earth Command, commending the diplomatic achievements and requesting a detailed debriefing. They were particularly interested in the integration of Auroch technologies into Earth's defensive and diplomatic arsenals. The implications were vast, and Sarah knew the balance they had achieved was fragile. Preparing for the debrief, she reviewed the agreements made with the coalition leaders. The documents were a testament to human ability to adapt and learn, heavily inspired by the Auroch principles, but distinctly human in execution. Each clause reflected a commitment to shared security and prosperity, a hope to avoid the isolation and despair that had doomed the Aurochs. Later, in a meeting with her senior staff, Sarah discussed the next steps. "We've set a precedent for cooperation, but maintaining this will require constant vigilance and adaptation. We can't allow ourselves to become complacent," she advised. Lieutenant Harrow updated her on the security status. "The coalition fleets are beginning to integrate the new defense protocols. There's some resistance, but overall, they're optimistic. The shared threat assessments are helping." Dr. Lee chimed in with updates on the technological front. "The Auroch tech has sparked a revolution in our R&D. We're seeing potential not just in defense, but in energy, medicine, and environmental management. However, the ethical frameworks are critical. We must ensure these technologies are used for the benefit of all." As the Benevolence approached Earth, the blue and green jewel in the vast canvas of space, Sarah felt a surge of pride and trepidation. They were returning not as enforcers, but as bearers of new wisdom, carriers of a torch that was lit from the ashes of a lost civilization. Upon landing, the crew was greeted with honors and a flurry of media attention. Humanity was eager to learn from their experiences, to understand the new technologies and the new diplomatic ties that had been formed. Sarah's debrief with Earth Command was thorough. She relayed not just the successes, but the potential pitfalls. "We stand at a crossroads," she stated firmly. "We can use what we've learned to build a stronger, more unified humanity, or we can let it divide us further. The choice will determine our future." In the weeks that followed, as the technologies were slowly disseminated under strict regulations, Sarah watched closely. The world was changing, undeniably and irreversibly. New alliances were forming, old rivalries were thawing, and the shadow of the Aurochs served as a constant reminder of what could happen if power was wielded without wisdom. As she prepared for her next mission, Sarah reflected on the path they had chosen. The Benevolence, once a clumsy amalgam of old and new, was now a symbol of a possible future where humanity could transcend its own limitations and avoid the echoes of past mistakes. The weight of legacy was not just about remembering history, but about making it. In the quiet of her office, Sarah looked out at the bustling spaceport, where ships bearing the flags of Earth and its new allies prepared for missions of peace and exploration. The universe awaited, vast and filled with promise, and humanity was stepping forward, guided by the light of ancient stars and the wisdom of those who had navigated them before.